let's talk about the gain control. Now, those of us who maybe used to play modelers before graduating to the Kemper, we kind of have this bad habit sometimes of pushing that gain control all the way up or all the way down and expecting the Kemper to kind of pretend like it's a modeler, pretend like it knows what the amp's going to do. But that's not really what the Kemper does. The Kemper's not a modeler, remember? It's a profiler. And there's a reason that commercial profilers and profilers on the amp exchange profile amps at so many different settings. It's because the Kemper can listen to a sound and accurately reproduce it at the setting that you give it. It doesn't know what that AC30 is going to sound like on 10 if you profile it at 3. If you've played around with the Kemper, you may have noticed one little idiosyncrasy. It does a fantastic job of taking roaring, high-gain profiles and cleaning them up. But where it struggles is taking the cleanest profiles and putting them all the way up to 10. This is where we see some limits on the Kemper's gain control. To illustrate this point, let's look at two Sir Badger profiles. One very clean, and the other kind of a rock, almost hard rock, amount of distortion. The Kemper registers the gain at right about 5, right about noon. First, let's listen to the clean Sir Badger profile, then let's take the dirty profile and clean it up. Here's that clean Sir Badger profile. Now let's try taking this dirtier Sir Badger profile and cleaning it up. There's some differences, but it's pretty impressive. It still sounds like that amp. Now, let's take that clean profile and let's move the gain up to try to match the dirty one. Okay, here's that dirty Sir Badger profile again. Now let's take that clean Sir Badger profile and up the gain. Well, nobody's perfect, right? But you see what I mean. The Kemper is able to clean up profiles a bit better than it's able to really push the gain. Let's talk about why that is. It really has to do with profiling and how tube amplifiers work. You see, we've talked about on this channel before that the Kemper actually has two sides to every profile, a clean and a dirty. And that the gain knob is actually mixing between those two sides, clean and dirty. Both those sides are created during the profiling process. But you gotta remember, as accurate as the Kemper is, it doesn't know what information you don't give it. And what I mean by that is the characteristic of this Sir Badger amp breaking up when it's set very clean is very different than the breakup characteristic when the amp is set very hot, very high gain. And that's for no other reason than how tubes are designed. Tubes and tube design wasn't actually created for the purpose of distortion. It's actually designed to recreate audio signal genuinely, accurately. It's designed so that you could hear a radio clearly or hear an amplified sound clearly, even like music in a tube radio or a tube television set in a picture form. But we love tubes because when you push them past their headroom, they actually break up and distort in a very lovely and musical way. But the way tubes distort changes the more you push them. And that's why the characteristic of the Sir Badger breaking up on 1 or 2 is very different than the breakup on 8 or 9. That tube is behaving differently. The Kemper is absolutely an amazing piece of technology when you consider that it's able to listen, create basically what's an algorithm or a profile to understand and respond to your guitar playing in the future in the manner of that amplifier. But you have to remember, the Kemper only knows the information you give it. If you profiled an amp on 2, it doesn't know exactly how that amplifier is going to behave on 8. All it can do is increase the breakup characteristic that it heard when the amp was on 2. and unfortunately, that's not going to give you the most natural sound. But conversely, because of the design of tube amplifiers and the Kemper's profiling process, it does a fantastic job at taking that amp that you had set all the way on 10 and bringing it all the way down. Because amplifiers, as we all know, are very touch sensitive. They respond beautifully to your picking dynamic, and that is why the Kemper is head and shoulders above modelers on the market. That is the little piece of magic that it captures. It knows what that amplifier sounds like on clean because the impulse signal during the profiling process starts from silent. It knows the whole way up how that amp's going to respond. Okay, so what does all that mean for you in dialing in your tones? Well, I wouldn't hesitate to touch the gain control, but I would recognize that if you get too much past 2 or 3 blips on the gain control, you may start to get away from the actual sound of that amplifier set to a similar gain setting. However, I think you can push that gain knob down a lot further, and the Kemper does a really great job of recreating what that amp will sound like when you clean it up. Well, I have been HW. Thank you so much for watching Tone Junkie TV. For more tips, tricks, and amazing profiles, check out tonejunkiestore.com, subscribe on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. HW, out.